Welcome to Narrow Ground Entertainment. I'm Steve the Unimpressed. This is Steve Solo's Minecraft episode 12. I checked this time to make sure I would say the right episode number for a change. Today I am going to do a little bit of work around my my house and my bay here. Morning, gentlemen. After my ill-advised and somewhat ill-fated expedition into the Nether in the last episode to check out some of the Nether update things, I have the material that I need to make observers, which means I can start setting up some automated farming. When I start setting up automatic farms, I don't generally like to just leave them lying on the surface. I like to put them underground when I can, even though in some cases it messes with spawn rates and is a great deal of work. That doesn't apply to all of them, particularly for farms like an automatic sugarcane farm, which is one of the first that I want to get put together. They aren't that difficult to build underground, so if you can prepare the space, it's my opinion that you might as well. Looks like we have a zombie piglin venturing onto the surface again. At least he's harmless. So I'm going to start digging out more space beneath the house to build what I generally call the Undercroft, which is my solution for bulk storage in Minecraft, because I'm a magpie and I never throw away any of the items that I gather up. I had two major sources of inspiration for the original Undercroft that I built in a single-player world. One of them was an episode of the Spawn Chunks, which is a podcast about Minecraft, where two other Minecraft gamers talk about what they do in Minecraft and interview other people from the Minecraft community. It's a good podcast. You should check it out if you're a Minecraft player. They were talking about bulk storage solutions, and that was partly what gave rise to this. The other part was inspired by a British show about archaeology that is actually rather old. It's called Time Team. I don't think it's currently running anymore, but I've ran across it on YouTube and have watched quite a few old episodes, including one where they excavated the undercroft of an old church, and that combined with Joel and Johnny's discussion on the Spawn Chunks about bulk storage made me think of my design for the undercroft that I use to store everything, and it also is the place where I build a lot of my automatic farms, if they are ones that don't require spawn-proofing a massive area. There are going to be a couple of design concerns with building the Undercroft that I don't usually have to deal with. When I've built it before, it's been further from ocean biomes, so I didn't pay all that much attention to how high I was building it. My design is a series of archways, basically, that serve no real purpose in terms of Minecraft's game physics other than decoration. I usually have 2 levels of it. Each level is 8 blocks high, so it's 16 blocks high. Because of the way Minecraft spawns slimes in caves underground, I tried to make sure that the floor layer of the lowest level is above the y-coordinate 40, but I also want to make sure, building it this close to the ocean, that the top of the ceiling is below the ocean floor. Otherwise it will be very difficult to build because I'll constantly have water pouring in on top of me. And I don't know if that's actually going to fit. I haven't measured the seafloor around my bay yet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And hopefully I'm not going to drown in the process. My y-coordinate is already y equals 48. So that's never going to work, which is actually going to require me to rethink the design of this thing somewhat. When I come over here and measure the bottom of the river biome behind me, you can see on the left there in the block coordinates, the y-coordinate is 59 here at the bottom of the river. So that should actually give me plenty of room to build my Undercroft underneath rivers. I just can't stray towards the ocean. So probably I'm going to keep my design more or less the same, and I'm just going to make sure that I don't expand east into my bay. When I build my island part of my base, wow, you guys are noisy, I will just have to make sure that I lay a tunnel somewhere, probably through this little strand of land that provides access to it in the first place, that will give me access to the Undercroft from the island. I'm already running into one of the major flaws of doing this type of construction, especially in the early game. As you can see, I came in the door, carved out a little area for the descent into the Undercroft area, and I've already run into a cave, which, by the sound of it, is full of all sorts of unfriendly things. I've ventured to the extent of and lit up the caves that I found branching off of this one that I dug into, and they will fit my purposes in building the Undercroft reasonably well, because all the blocks that are already removed are blocks that I don't have to mine. So, hopefully the open spaces down here will help me out a little bit in getting this ready. We will see what comes of that, but for now I am going to continue venturing downward probably until I'm standing on block 41. You can see now if I bring up my Y coordinate that we are almost there. So I'm standing on block Y43, and a couple more rows will take us to Y41, which is right here. So this is where I'm going to lay the floor for my Undercroft, which actually I'm going to remove the block that I'm standing on probably, and blocks that I'm standing on, and replace them with some other block, probably stone brick or something like that. That is what I usually use to build my Undercroft structures out of. We'll see exactly how much work I want to go to, though, because I have been giving some thought to trying to build it out of basalt from the nether now instead. One of the variations of basalt looks very good as pillars, and since a large portion of the Undercroft structures are pillars, I might decide to build it out of that instead, at least in part. Now we need to make sure we're starting off hollowing out in an easterly direction, which is this way. If I go west, I might wind up underwater. So, let's be careful to not have that happen. And what I'm going to start doing now that I'm down here is, since this is the edge of my staircase, I am eventually going to replace the staircase with just a straight vertical ladder to save on space and to save me from having to constantly twist the camera around as I come downstairs. My Undercroft design is tileable, so each individual Undercroft archway only takes up 7 blocks, but as you add the next one on, I arrange them so that they're 8 blocks each. So what I'm going to do is mine probably a 16 by 16 by 16 chunk out here, which is actually a standard Minecraft chunk, so technically the Undercroft is a tileable one chunk build. I'm going to mine that out and start going up in sort of a staircase fashion. And I'm going to have to light it up as I go, otherwise I will be overrun with monsters, so I'm probably going to have to go back and make more torches in the relatively near future. Well, I made a mistake. East is that way. West is that way. I just wasted 3 iron pickaxes. Well, unless you're a dwarf, it's easy to get turned around underground, and I'm not a dwarf. So as I discovered when I went upstairs, I have been digging towards the ocean instead of away from it, which was exactly what I had said I was going to avoid doing. I'm going to have to dig that way instead, which means that really I've made no progress at all, despite having dug out all of this. So, we're going to start again, going this way. Eventually, if nothing else, I would have discovered my error by having a bunch of water pour in on me. I'm glad I discovered it before that. While I was upstairs making more iron pickaxes, because that was what I went upstairs to do originally, I was running out of... I'd broken my last one. I decided to grab my diamond pickaxe with the efficiency 4 enchantment as well, because that will make digging this out significantly faster, and The diamond pickaxe is more valuable, and especially since it has the efficiency 4 enchantment, and I intend to save it to combine with another pickaxe, hopefully one with the mending enchantment, so that I will be able to keep using the same pickaxe infinitely. I can just keep using this until it has a sliver of durability left, and then put it back in the chest to be saved until I have the type of pickaxe that I want to combine it with, and it will speed up work on the Undercroft quite a bit in the meantime. Well, you can see here that I've made quite a bit of progress on hollowing out the area underground that I need for my Undercroft. I'm about 4 blocks down, so about a quarter of the chunk vertically, but I have reached the point now where I have gotten all I want to risk getting out of this diamond pickaxe. It has 6 durability left of 1,561, pushing it. I don't want to mine too much more, because if the durability goes to 0, then this tool will break and it will be lost to me, because I have no... Well, I could take it upstairs and repair it using diamonds and the anvil, but that would make it more difficult for combining with other pickaxes later. So for now, I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm going to take it upstairs, put it back in the chest, and not worry about it for the future. I may, when I have enough levels, enchant another diamond pickaxe in the hopes of getting another efficiency 4 or other things even more desirable. And when I eventually obtain a mending book, I will combine those and probably start using it again. But for now, I'm going to have to retire this one and revert to just using iron pickaxes. One other thing that I discovered as I was doing this, if you hold the F3 key and press G, it will show the chunk borders. As I was mining this out, I discovered that I had started only 1 block off of being centered in the chunks, and I decided to go over 1 more block and get my my construction centered on a chunk. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to bother with that. However, since the floor of the lower level is at y equals 40, and that is the level that that slimes start to spawn at, if I locate a slime chunk at some point, I can turn whatever part of the Undercroft is in that chunk into a slime farm relatively easily. I won't have sections of it running through a bunch of different pieces of the Undercroft. It will all be neatly centered. The other thing I discovered from looking at that was my oopsie over here when I started mining in the wrong direction actually went right up to the border of the next chunk. So I probably will actually finish hollowing out this section after all, and not just abandon it. It wasn't exactly what I had intended to do, but when life gives you lemons, make the best of it. Or something like that. That took some time, but now I have enough space down here to make a start on this, and that is really all I want to get accomplished in this video. Part of the reason that I'm doing this now instead of working on some of my other projects is that I'm already being overrun with certain items that I need to store. Mainly this cobblestone. I've got a couple other things upstairs that are starting to get into the same state, but really I just need a place to store some stuff without filling the house up there with chests. We still have an Enderman running around. I'm not sure what he's holding. Looks like he's holding a flower. I did not know that Enderman can pick up flowers, but I guess now I know. Whatever you build out of down here, you want to make sure that it is something that Enderman cannot pick up. One of my houses in one of my single-player games has a grass floor, and I'm constantly having Enderman rearranging my floor in part of the house because it's not completely level. Be aware of that. Don't build out of things that Enderman can move. I'm going to go and check on how much basalt I have, and if I have enough, I will use that to start on the pillars, and if I don't, I will probably make another excursion to the nether to build myself a low-tech basalt generator, and we'll see where we get from there. Well, I went and investigated the items that I brought back from the nether, and what I found was that not only did I not bring enough basalt back from the nether to make these structures out of that, I didn't bring any back. And to add to that, I don't have any ability in this world right now to gather ice. The method of making basalt with lava is also therefore closed to me. So I decided that instead of going on an extended excursion trying to get access to that stuff, I would just use a different material. And what I'm going to use is a lot of dark oak. Another thing I am missing in this world that would have been very helpful for this project is scaffolding. I have yet to find any bamboo in this world, so I have to make do with building towers of planks, which is going to eventually break my axe if I am continually using it to chop myself back down. But so be it. For now, I'm going to build this out of dark oak logs, and maybe I'll decide to change it out for basalt at a later time, but we'll see whether I ever want to invest that much work. Eventually what this becomes is a square of archways 5 blocks apart. So I have a pillar here, a pillar here. One is supposed to go right here. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 5 between. And then another one here. And I've decided to put that right on the chunk boundary. Now this is only 7 blocks. I said it was tileable as 8. Where am I using up the extra block? Ultimately, the full pillar winds up looking like this instead. So each one of these sections has 4 single pillars, and then there's another pillar in the middle, and that allows it to tile more neatly and tiles in 8 spaces. So this 8th block is the block between the sections. Now, of course, placing log blocks is directional. So when I place them, I'm going to have to be above them constantly. So I'm going to wear out my axe building these pillars. But I think I will build all of them right away so that I only have to come up and down once. So I'm going to take these all the way 16 blocks up, well, 15 blocks up. And that way both levels of this will be completed. And then I will work on building the archways. All my pillars are now up to ceiling height, so I'm going to start building my arches, assuming that I can remember how to do it. It has been a while since I built this, and it usually takes me mixing it up a couple of times to figure out how I did it in the past. So what I use for this will be slabs, full blocks, and stairs, all of the same kind. I'm going to need to run over to my crafting table here and make a few more of those. That should get us started. It is going to be slightly easier to build it on this archway because it is facing a wall, so I can place blocks against the wall. So for that reason, I think I'm going to start with this one. Now, this is supposed to be 7 blocks high total, because the 8th block is the one that I'm standing on. So the capstone of the arch, or, well, the cap log, the cap plank, cap plank of the arch should go, I believe, there. If I'm not misremembering how I did this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that looks right. And that one is a full block. If I remember correctly, the first inverted stair block went on the 4th block up. And then I did plank here and a regular stair block here and a regular stair block that way, and then an inverted stair block not that way. I broke my axe as I suspected, so now I just have to punch these out. There we go. Yeah, that looks like what I remember. Don't remember how to build my own creations. There, and that's what the single archway should look like when it's finished. So now I'm going to complete the other 4 in this section, and then I do smaller arches diagonally coming to the center of the 5x5 area that this set of pillars is surrounding. Well, that bit is finished, and I am going to stay on top of these to do the next part, because it's just easier from up here. I usually build out from the side and place the center block that way. I'm going to have to take these slabs back out because I don't need those there. If I had had a little more forethought, I could have done that differently and saved myself a step, but oh well. I'm going to actually just surround this with slabs because I need to be able to place them against something. And the diagonal ones here are actually the ones I want, so I'm going to knock this one back out eventually. In fact, let me just do that right now, because I don't need those anymore. Alright, and with those gone, the first piece of that arc you can place against the stair block there without as much messing around. Alright, and that is complete. And then for the next structure, what I will do, or for the next level of the structure, what I will do is just lay a floor over these. For now, I am going to put torches up here to keep them lit up, because I don't want stuff spawning up here, and these 5 blocks in particular will be spawnable until they're covered with something. Now then, the last touch to this is to put in the lighting. So what I do is put fence posts attached to the bottom of that, and then I have a bunch of lanterns in here. Well, I will cut out now and finish the rest of this one. As is predictable, I realized eventually that while I was building this second alcove that I had actually goofed up on the first one too. When you're building designs from memory, even when they're your own designs, you are liable to forget something. When I put the lanterns in, I was thinking, was that really a slab? Because I seem to remember that the fence post connected to it at the top. Well, it did. I didn't use slabs for this in the original design. Not at this spot, anyway. The reason I was using slabs is that I wanted them on the bottom of these. You can't place a block with half of it above and half of it below. I have to use a top half slab and a bottom half slab. And then the one that goes over the lamp is supposed to be a full block. I'm just going to jump up there and get that slab back. I do have a lot of dark oak, but why let it go to waste? And then I will replace these with the proper block. And grab that slab too. So there, I found and fixed my mistake before I had finished recording the video. Slabs for this section so that it looks like a block even though it's actually 2 half blocks, and then full blocks for the rest. After a lot more work, which took quite a bit longer than I was really hoping it was going to take, this is what I have. This is the first section of the Undercroft. I plan to continue to expand this over time. One of the things that I've mentioned in the past is I like to hide a lot of automated farming stuff underground so that I don't have to work out a building that I can build around it to make it kind of fit into the landscape of Minecraft. You can always just leave it undecorated too, just have weird redstone contraptions hanging around in the middle of your fields. But I prefer to hide stuff underground or build something around it. And since I'm not that good a builder, I tend to go for hiding it underground. The Undercroft is where I hide it. So eventually, somewhere in this area, I plan to build my iron farm. I had mentioned before wanting to get some automatic farms started that I needed nether quartz to build the components for. I will probably place some of those down here in the near future. I may or may not, I'm still sort of debating this with myself, come back and replace all of these central pillar sections with the basalt pillars that I had mentioned earlier in the episode. I think those would look better down here, and I just think that block looks really cool. I'm not the only one, apparently. I'm nobody's version of a skilled interior designer, but even I'd think this is just a little bit too dark. We will see, though. It will be a long time before I can generate that much basalt, and by the time I can, it might just be too much effort. One of the drawbacks of doing a separate world for my YouTube channel and my free time play in Minecraft is I always forget that in this world, I am not at endgame Minecraft like I am in my other world. There are some things that you just can't do very effectively, materials that you can't get large amounts of until you have the advantages of being in endgame Minecraft. I don't want to do stuff like get further into nether exploration or looking for the stronghold so that I can get to the end and fight the ender dragon. All that kind of stuff, anything that really advances the game to a point where I'm not yet, I don't want to do off camera, so I'm stuck waiting until I have time and ability to film to do any of that. That was actually one of the reasons I wanted to get started on building an Undercroft, is now that I've showed the basic design, I don't feel bad about expanding this off camera. When I just want to sit down and play some Minecraft, I can now come into the world that I use for narrow ground entertainment and just work on expanding this instead of going into my single player world, although I may want to get some better tools for that at some point in the near future. Otherwise, I'm going to be burning through a lot of iron. Once I get an Undercroft structure at least started in any of my Minecraft worlds, I basically have no more problems with mass storage of any items. It's not as efficient as an automatically sorted storage system, but every one of those I've ever seen, at some point there's a limit to how much of a particular block you can put into it. The Undercroft doesn't really have that problem. You just fill these alcoves with barrels of whatever block you're trying to store a bunch of, and since each alcove has over 200 open block spaces for you to fill with barrels, you can store a lot in one of these alcoves. I have never filled one up with any single item. What I usually do is I take this single space between sections and I fill that with some sort of material to serve as a wall and continue placing barrels into that alcove until, well, I would say until it's full, but like I said, I've never filled one up. If you did fill one up, it's not really a problem. Just dig another one behind it. So if you do use a automatically sorted storage system, I haven't really dabbled with them yet, I plan to at some point, and you keep running out of space for that, I don't know, 500,000 smooth stone that you need to store, consider building one of these as an overflow area. Oh, and a quick word about the lighting in these. I have found that hanging lanterns at 3 blocks, well, I guess that's 4 blocks, hanging lanterns at 4 blocks high, the light level in this block is as low as it gets, which is 8. So that should prevent any mobs from spawning, but you do have to be a little bit careful around the edges as you're building it, or as you're expanding, because the pattern around the edges is not going to be consistent because you haven't placed the next lantern yet. So be aware of that if you're building one of these. Pay attention to where mobs might spawn. Like here, I should probably put some torches over here. Let me just do that before I get shot by a skeleton again. I mentioned a podcast called The Spawn Chunks earlier, and sidebar, if you are into Minecraft and somehow know about my channel but don't know about The Spawn Chunks, I highly recommend the podcast. The Undercroft design is probably one of the best things I've ever created in Minecraft. Definitely one of the ones I'm most proud of, so I do plan to send them an email with a link to this video. Joel and Johnny, if you somehow wind up watching this, thanks for the great podcast and keep up the good work. And that's where I'm going to end this episode. I can't tell you what I'm going to be doing in the next episode because I have not decided yet. I might build some of my automatic farms down here that I've been talking about building that were part of the reason for going to the Nether at all. I might try another excursion to the Nether in hopes of finally getting a blaze rod so that I can cure the zombie villagers on my lawn. We'll see. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to my channel to see more episodes. And if you want to help me help my channel grow, please share it with your friends. Goodbye and God bless.